So quarterfinal day 2. What do we think?
Sure is. I don't know. This one's probably a little bit more favorite heavy, I think, today. The first game with Ents, the one maybe concern I have with them is, was their run at IM Full a one-hit wonder? That's what I'm thinking to myself coming into this event, because last Invitationals, they haven't looked that great. They went out in the quarters against Endpoint, and they went out in the semis to Nordavind and didn't even put up much of a fight there. Again, was a little while ago. Some of the other events they've done pretty well in. Pro League, they did well. Some of the Blast qualifiers, not that well there. So for Ents, I'm just looking at them thinking, are they going to perform like they did at the RMR? Because if they can, I think they're going to be a favorite to probably go all the way to the grand final. If they don't quite play to that height, knowing we've gone back online from after LAN, they might have a tough time against Lingby, because Lingby are a strong team.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is that, like, would you rate them as to be a strong enough team by comparison to Ents? Because, like, the main thing and the main comparison point for these two squads is that Ents are playing in the RMR events, and I don't think Lingby have.
Yeah. No, they haven't played in any tier 1 event for a very long time.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one in that respect, because while they are a strong tier 2 team, like, even though Ents did make, I guess, a bit of a fluke run in the RMR, that's still a run in the RMR, whereas Lingby didn't even qualify for the RMR.
Yeah. At the same time, though, it's just about consistency, right? Like, is Ents going to be consistent? Whereas for Lingby, they went all the way from Regional Swiss, had a pretty easy time against AGO in the playoff round 1 game. You have a look at them in Pinnacle. 2-0 against Illumina, 2-0 against EC Kiev, 2-0 against Nemega, into main Swiss, 2-0 Saw, 2-1 Skade, 2-1 FPX. They are getting a lot of wins. And that's probably just the drive for the upset potential for Lingby, is just they are winning a lot of games. This is going to be competition they probably haven't faced in a while. I mean, the FPX result and Skade, that's still 2 very strong teams in that one. Maybe not to the same caliber event. So I'm still pinning Ents to win, but I am probably open-minded to the chance of an upset if Lingby really deliver and they play some good Counter-Strike and Ents get caught off guard. This could actually be quite a close game.
Yeah, possibly. I think my main concern for Lingby Vikings, though, is the fact that whenever they step up to the next level of competition, and whenever they look towards some of those higher level squads, like, for example, Fiend or Harvu, they tend to lose like they did during that main Swiss stage. And their results in terms of the victories were great. The losses probably not so much here. Even in the during the regional Swiss stage, they lost to Galaxy Racer, which is a perfect example of what I'm talking about there. Like, sometimes they are a really good team and they have been making a decent run, but it's not quite as easy as it might seem initially.
Oh, yeah. Even though they're winning a lot, you're facing off against a top side. There's no doubt about it. I think for Ents, they really impressed at the RMR, and this could be a good way moving forward into the major. Just hope they don't play like big yesterday, right, where they're just getting absolutely pumped, because that is a very common occurrence where maybe the tier 1 teams are focusing so heavy on pracking everyone at the major that when they dip in the tier 2, they're like, all right, well, maybe they can expose some of our weaknesses, we can tighten, and then all of a sudden they just get slapped out of the water. So Ents have just got to hope that that doesn't happen to them today. I'm probably still going to pin them as favorites, even with Lingby playing well. I think this could be quite a close game, though.
Yeah, I feel like Ents are probably favourites, and they're probably going to have the little edge above them. I'm going to predict them as my personal predictions. But you're right. Like, this is like Skade Fiend all over again. Like, it could go either way, and it all depends on who's showing up on the day today. In terms of players to watch, like, who will be like our main highlight guys?
Well, Ents has to be Spinks and Dia. Those guys played really well in the RMR. I mean, even Hades was all right, but maybe wasn't quite a star player like Spinks and Dia were. So probably those 2 guys for Ents. Lingby, Fash has been playing at a very high level. Wolfie always impresses. His consistency is next to nothing. He just always puts up numbers, always hits his shots. And I think that in terms of the AWP strength, he's probably slightly more impactful than Hades in that kind of comparison. The difference is Ents as a whole are playing a lot more tier 1 teams, so I don't know how much you can make of that comparison, considering Lingby don't play to those kind of high-end squads. But still, I think Wolfie, in just the numbers game and consistency, is probably the stronger AWPer out of the 2. So, and for ends, like we haven't seen them this event again, invited into playoffs. That's always the difficult nature because with these teams that come in from Swiss, we actually know what the road is like. We actually know what their form is coming in. Where for ends, we can have a look at different events. We just don't know what they've been like in Elisa. We know what they've been like in the past, and in the past, it hasn't actually been that great.
I mean, you say that, but again, the main thing that you mentioned before was that this is a very different level of competition compared to where Ents usually are. Like, they just come off the RMR, they've got victories above Astralis and G2 and Vitality and Mad Lions and, you know, whoever else you want to throw into the mix on that respect. So,
Can't
like,
believe you just named Mad Lions there, man. You just mentioned G2, Astralis, Vitality, and the Mad Lions. Come on!
The bottom line is that, like, their level of teams above, you know, the
no, 100%.
Side. Like, you know, maybe Mad Lions a bit debatable, but the rest of them, like, you know, that's still pretty respectable. Like, they even got a map off NIP in those grand finals. So for Ents, like, the difference is so staggering by comparison to where Lingby Vikings are playing that I'm not sure how much that will really matter.
Yeah, could be. Definitely so. So yeah, I think Ents are favourites. The next game, I don't know how I really feel about that one. I think Copenhagen Flames are easily the favourites going into the Fnatic game, even though it is Fnatic and it's that whole name of Fnatic. They're definitely not the favourites going into this game.
It's weird because I think had Fnatic been able to find a way to get Smooya into the lineup for this, then I probably would rate them above Copenhagen Flames.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely
really? Not really.
Yeah,
why
doesn't
not?
matter. You got one player. You went 0-5 in the RMR. Didn't even show competitive nature. No chance, right? Just because you've got one player that is a good player, it's not going to make them a difference over Copenhagen Flames, who have continued to impress and have worked incredibly hard. Where Fnatic just have not got results.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I feel like the reason why Fnatic have not got results, even though like I feel like the reason why is because they've not had a great AWPer. Like, I was not a fan of Jacquino. I just did not like the way he played. I did not like his style. I don't think it fit for Fnatic. And yeah, they lost out, but they still got some close maps, especially against those tier 2 level opposition, which shouldn't really be where Fnatic should be in terms of that name value. But had they had gotten those wins, we'd probably be singing a very different story here against the likes of Copenhagen Flames. Other thing you got to mention as well is that Copenhagen Flames, yes, they topped out their group, but those were all best of ones, and I just don't take a lot of stock in the best of one results.
That's no
unfortunately,
excuse.
I don't see it that way. Like, you know, a best of 3 is a very different environment to a best of 1. The main concern for me in Fnatic is the fact that Regali, I do not know who he is. I do not know what he's done. He might be one of the star players from the Fnatic Academy side, but this is a very different beast.
Yeah, he started off on Game Agents with the Romanian guys, and I think he's posted like an average 1.18 rating in the last 3 months for Fnatic Rising. The difficult thing with that is the Academy team's not playing in anything else other than the WePay Academy League. Like, if they were playing in the odd Malta Vibes, or they were maybe playing in a Pinnacle, or just another one of those sort of tier 2 events, then you could maybe see how they go up against some of the other teams other than just academies. So it's difficult to get a gauge of what Regali's going to be like. And honestly, if he performs here for Fnatic and they're quite happy with him, I mean, it's a very potential move, because that's the whole point of an academy team, is you don't have to have a crazy buyout. You're just able to transfer players up to the academy team. So if he's able to show a good performance and he's comfortable and they see something in him, I think there's a very good chance that this could be a potential move for Fnatic if they like him.
Well, it depends really on how the performance rates up, but Fnatic are very unpredictable today. You know, that much is pretty much an absolute guarantee. In terms of the match itself, I also see that as pretty unpredictable as well. Like, I don't know which way this one goes. You've got positives and negatives for both sides for me. I don't look at the... you know, I look at Copenhagen Flames' results, and I think that, yes, their run was great in the RMR, but it's marred by caveats for me. I don't know. It's just like I feel like the change made to Fnatic, and especially the changing of the AWPer may have been a little bit mistimed, and that they had a bit of a stronger option, then maybe that probably could have been a respectable position. And it's just like, I just don't know what Fnatic are going to be made of. I don't know what they're going to be able to do in this match because of the nature of that move.
I think there's a chance I get pumped, honestly, by Copenhagen Flames. To me, the best of 1 results, these guys look solid. Even in the playoffs, yeah, they didn't take a map off Vitality. They kept it close on both maps against a top 5 team in the world. They had a difficult time against Movistar Riders, who looked fantastic on LAN, and they beat Fiend. You even look at, okay, maybe their result against Finest wasn't great. That would be a wake-up call for Copenhagen Flames, because actually was quite tight when it probably shouldn't have been. I just have a look at Fnatic. I mean, they even almost lost to GXR in the open qualifier. I mean, come on. Like, Galaxy Racer are not a strong tier 2 team. They're an average contender, but we're not putting them in the conversation of a top 40, top 30 team at all. So the fact that Fnatic struggled against GXR is kind of worrying. And then again, you have a look at how they went in the closed qualifiers. They lost to Sinners. They had a tight game against Eternal Fire. Even in Pro League, they beat Big, who's kind of been up and down. The FaZe result was pretty decent. Even Pro League, though, was ages ago. Like, it wasn't recent, was it? When you have a look at those group stage games, those were a little while ago. And then when we did see Fnatic in the last sort of Tier 2 Cup, in that last Nordic Masters, the qual, they lost to Copenhagen Flames and they lost to Double O Nations. Again, it was best of ones. But I don't know. Brolin had his worst event in IM full in his entire span under Fnatic of 3 years, which is incredibly worrying considering Brolin's the best player on this lineup. And at the RMR, the event that's probably the most important in the entire year for Fnatic, he is, I think he rated 115th out of 120 players for highest ranking, which is ridiculously low.
Yeah, I mean, that's got no excuse on that particular front. Like, they need him to step up in this matchup if they want to continue, if they want to try and pick up the paces. For me, the main focus is going to be on whether that Regali change is going to be for the better for Fnatic.
Could be cool. Yeah, it could be cool to see him, right? Like a young man. I know that they've got a couple of youngsters in this team, but just having a young gun trying to play with some veteran guys, it'll be cool. And hopefully he steps up. I think that they're going to be in a difficult time, though, because even for Copenhagen Flames, they've got some good AWPers of Nico Odos. Yabby picks it up from time to time. So I look at this one and I just don't even... it could be a contest, but there's no way that I'm looking at this thinking that there's a potential that Fnatic upset.
Yeah, Fnatic is too unpredictable for me. You know, I feel like had they found a way to add like another better AWPer, like a proven AWPer, again, if they kept Smoothie, I probably would be singing their praises, but I don't think in this one that they're going to have a victory. I think it might be close, but I don't... sorry, let me rephrase that. It could be close, but I don't think it's probably going to be a win for Fnatic.
Yeah, and for them, you'd have to imagine that a lot of the tier 2 teams on paper are stronger than Fnatic. So knowing that they're the invited team, there's probably some more pressure on them to perform because they're coming in here. They don't have to play regional Swiss. They don't have to play main Swiss. You get straight into the quarterfinals. And if you want to keep getting invited back to these events, you don't do what Big have done and just get eliminated 3 grand quarterfinals in a row. Yeah. And every time you get invited, you bomb out. Because they did that in some of the Springs, didn't they? They came in and they just got pumped. They just got destroyed by the tier 2 teams.
Well, most famously, it was Fiend that put themselves on the map by defeating Fnatic in that in one of the Spring events.
Yeah, and I think they lost a 1 win as well. Like there was some tough losses for Fnatic. So I think that they're in a very similar boat as Big as well. Is that when they dip down into some of these tier 2 events, these guys, if they're not coming in with their A game, they're going to get pumped and they're going to get hit very hard by the tier 2 team. So yeah, it'll be nice to see Fnatic. Hopefully they can have a decent run and just try and prove something and just bounce back, because the way they performed at the RMR was very poor, and I'm sure they've realized that themselves.
Yeah. I think that unlike a team like Big, who may be within that borderline top 10 position, Fnatic don't have that luxury of not having anything to prove. They've got a lot to prove. They've got to win every single tournament that they play in the tier 2 space, and they've got to be able to, win as many, pretty much every single game that they can get. Like, it's a lot of pressure on this team, and it's a lot of pressure in the organization because, again, you mentioned the name value for Fnatic. They expect to win. They should be winning, but right now they're just not.
We even look at the placement, not only in the RMR, but in the major spots at all. They came 19th out of 20th in the RMR points. So
roster changes though, so I'm not sure how much that really.
Still though, you're going to a Swedish major and you're coming second to last when only top 11 teams go to the major. Like that's just poor in all the RMRs. Yeah, you can make the roster. You see how many other teams in the EU RMR and the CIS RMR made roster changes? You can't leave that to an excuse of them taking points. It's just not them performing.
It's just extra context to me, you know. Like they lost the majority of their points by making those changes to the team. So, like,
well, they didn't get any points in the RMR. In the last one at IM full.
I know. I'm not disputing that point. I'm just saying that, you know, they were always going to have the odds stacked against them.
I completely disagree. You get Copenhagen Flames that went over Fnatic. Like, when you think of that, right? That should be a lot of teams that were even... I mean, even Fiend were kind of borderline that if a couple of results went differently, then they could have made the major as well. Like, for Fnatic to go 19th out of 20th, even if they did make roster changes at all, they need to be so much more competitive than they were. Like, so much higher.
Agreed. I can agree on that one at least.